Yeah. Oh shit, we finally got it ready. All right, so yeah, we are doing it. Antonio Mckee. This episode's been something that I've been really looking forward to for quite a while. Since we started kind of like talking a couple weeks ago. Done a lot of research on you. Anybody that's in the fight game knows who you are. You're a legend in the sport. And so I want to first start off by on the record thanking you for coming on my show. I'm very humbled to have you on and excited to get into this because you've led a fucking crazy life, man. And I don't want you to hold back, feel like you can't swear or whatever. This one's going to be, full on because you've led a lot. You've gone through a lot of shit, man. So, kind of wanted to start this off with kind of where you're originally from. And let's just kind of see where this goes because I know you were born East Coast, but kind of raised Long Beach. And yeah, just kind of go from there, bro.
Well, first off, man, thanks for having me on the show. It's not just an honor for me, but I also feel it's a privilege for me to be able to come to a fighter's story and be able to tell that story. So I'm honored to be on the show more than anything. Thank you for having me. Uh, Most of the things that I talk about and things that I express to people is from a passionate point in my life now versus anger. And I tell people, don't misconstrue my confidence with your intimidation of me. I've had to walk a different life, but I believe I'm still here to be able to help people. And, so people that maybe don't have it as bad as I had it, thinking that they have it so bad, um, just to be a soft spot for them. But originally, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. I was born in Dayton, Ohio. My mother was very young, 14, 13 years old, pregnant with me, male black in the South. You know what that was about. We don't got to go dig up old history. But being a minority in the South in the 60s, 70s, it wasn't fair what they were doing to the young women at that time. If you go back and look at the laws in the states, what what their laws were, they would take kids like me and send them away because, of course, the mother's underage. But my mother ran away, and imagine life for a black woman in the South in the 70s, 60s, early, uh, with a single child and a single parenting at 13 years old. So, part of that is why I had to go through so much and why I went through so much. Uh, but other than that, man, I'm thankful. I ain't sad or there's no boohoo parties for me because at the end of the day, man, I'm with the smoke. However you want to light it, I'm with it.
Right? Yeah, I was watching an interview. So I I grew up playing hockey in a very violent house. I was in, more fights by the time I was 12 that it was just insane. But in going through all of your interviews and stuff, wrestling is a huge part of your life. And I'm not in that world. I never wrestled. I went to one practice and I ended up being late to hockey practice. So I never went back to wrestling. But I was watching an interview you did, and you were talking about growing up in the South, and how you were basically raised to hate white people, and that
I was
you
raised
almost
that way.
died. What's that?
I was raised that way, but that's not what I was. I didn't do that. I was raised very black this, black that, black this, but I was attracted to white women. I dated white women. I dated out of my race. I never dated in my race. I dated out of my race. So I can't say that they did a good job by raising me to be a racist person or to be more aware of what color I was and where I was because I was so free to go on the other side of the bridge. Only blacks stay on the other side of the bridge. You don't go on the white side. You end up dead. But I would always challenge those things and pretty much almost met death several times by being a young black kid on the white side of Nashville, Tennessee. So I didn't understand it at the time because racism and color is something that's taught to you. That's not something that you're just naturally born with and say, "Oh, I'm black, I'm different." Um, so I wouldn't say that they were successful at raising me to be racist, but I think they were successful at raising me of my identity as a black man. No one likes to talk about these things, and it can go way left. But I'm an advocate of both sides. I was married to a white woman. I had white kids. I have mixed kids. I'm now currently married to a Spanish and black woman, which now I have Spanish and black kids. So I'm very culturally diverse. I don't see or try not to see color. Unfortunately, when you see me, you say he's black.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, it's a weird time that we're in right now too, especially like post COVID, and we had everything with Black Lives Matter, and it's and now there's like something else coming out about they're being sued, or I don't know. It's just an entire subject that I try to stay away from. I just thought it was pretty interesting because you also had a story about the KKK and how you kind of somehow got taken by with them, and that kind of interested me. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of sharing how the hell you almost get murdered by the KKK, bro. That's like,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be there, but
Right.
that's
Well,
not
see,
where you're supposed to be.
again, I was always told don't go to the river alone without your uncle. Don't go to the river in the evening. But you don't, as a child, know don't go to the river because they're going to kill me or they're going to hang me or they're going to burn me. I mean, people don't realize how close slavery was still in existence and
Yeah.
still to this day. Um, so I decided to go fishing. You know, we were poor. We lived in the projects. You can Google where I lived. I lived in University Courts. University Courts was a project where everybody died every day. Still to this day, those projects exist. People are dying right now. Probably somebody just got shot while we're talking. But University Courts, I would go over the bridge, Shelby Bridge in Nashville, and I haven't been there in over like since I was a kid. And I remember it was so graphic, the memories. But I would go down to the river and fish, the Shelby River. I would fish and get the fish, and I would take it home to my grandmother because we were poor. We didn't have any food. People don't even understand what like not having food and being poor is. Our rent was $27 a month for a steel apartment with concrete and steel. So I would go down to the river. I think I was maybe around 7 or 8. I go down to the river and I would fish and bring the fish back home, give it to my grandmother. She'd get some cornmeal. I think I remember cornmeal being 13 cents a box and then Jiffy cornbread was like 25 cents a box. And it was like, tastes like cake. So
Yeah.
I would get the fish. For this particular time, my uncle didn't want to go with me. And so I said, oh, I'm a big boy. I'm going to go by myself. So I snuck out of the house, got my fishing poles, went down to the river to fish. And I've always been really afraid of moccasins, water moccasins.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm down there and I'm fishing, and there's a meeting going on to the right side of me, and I came down like through the middle of the rocks and down the cliff and down. I'm sitting here at the river and I'm fishing, and so they kind of see me, and so they look over and they all started. I remember all the white. I don't remember they were putting hoods over their head. I just remember it was all white, and I was like looking like, why are these people dressed up for Halloween? It's not Halloween. I didn't know what the KKK was. Um,
Oh, yeah.
well, this was a good Halloween costume because once they got around me, they started saying the N word. They were like, "Hey, nigger, what are you doing down here, nigger?" And I was like acting like a kid. It was so funny because I'm gonna tell you something. I wasn't there alone. There was something there protecting me, and so immediately it said, "Don't be afraid, just be calm." And I was just like, "Oh," like acting like a kid. Like, yeah. They were like, come over here, nigger, come over here." But the way they were surrounding me, and I was in the middle, and they were like on both ends, and so they were like, "Come this way," and they would force me to go this way, and then they would kind of slant a little bit. So we're walking, and they're taking me up under the bridge, and I was really scared up under the bridge because there's water moccasins. And I was always scared of water moccasins, snakes. I don't know what it is, me and snakes.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my gosh, there's going to be a snake in there and I'm going to get bit by a snake. I'm more worried about the snake than I am what's actually happening. So as we're walking through, and I had my fishing pole, and the guy took my fishing pole and he threw it. When he threw it, the hook caught me in the mouth. And you see right here, it ripped open my lip because the hook caught and it ripped my lip. My pole went out into the water. And so now they were telling me, come over here, nigger, walk this way, nigger. And they're taking me to go up under the bridge, but we're going up to the top. So
Right.
I'm kind of like, I don't remember if I remember what was happening. I was just calm. I was like, okay, okay. So I'm walking with it, but I'm acting really cool. I remember acting cool and they kept pushing me, but I was just real cool. And then right when we got to the top, I took off running between the guy's robe, whatever that shit he had between his legs, and went through his robe, and he ended up falling. And I went into these tubes, these big old tubes. I guess they're water tubes for where water goes through, where wastewater
Yeah,
goes
yeah,
through.
yeah. Like sewage
So
pipes, those
yes,
big ass ones.
but
Yeah,
they're
yeah, yeah.
real big concrete ones. And so I went inside and I hid in between, and they were throwing rocks and this and that. And I don't remember what happened. What I remember is, first of all, I couldn't breathe. So I think they lit a fire or something. I don't remember, but I couldn't breathe. And I passed out. And I remember when I woke up, it was evening time. It was like going on the night, and I had to hurry up and get home. I completely forgot about them. So I'm running out of it. I'm trying to get back over the bridge so I can get home because I'm gonna get in trouble because it's dark. And I ended up getting home and I had all this blood all over me, like from them throwing rocks and objects into the
Yeah.
tunnels, piercing and hitting my body. And after that, I kind of got another spanking when I got home, and I learned that you don't go to the river alone. But that was, I mean, Nashville, Tennessee was a very bad place at that time in the 70s, man. These people were on a different page, and I was always over the bridge. I remember Dolly Parton's house. Dolly Parton's a great woman because she would always like put food out. Like she was just an amazing female back then. She lived over the bridge and she stayed. She had the Dolly Parton, the ranch and stuff. So I used to go over there and feed the animals as a child. But yeah, man, that was the start of it. And again, like I said, I've always been attracted to the opposite of what I was, for the self hatred. I didn't like being me. You know what I mean? And not liking yourself, obviously, that can create a lot of problems. And so from that point on, it got real intense.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole hating yourself thing, I completely relate to that. I'm kind of going through like a bunch of like past traumas and like trying to figure out therapy because there's times where I'll hate myself and it's like it's hard for somebody else to understand what that means, like to not actually care about yourself. So, but you were able to get out of that, and kind of become this legend. But who raised you during this entire time? Because you said your mom went away, so it's like who's in charge of you as a kid, or are you just kind of like running around just being crazy?
God was in charge, but I had the right to decide what was right and wrong. I didn't have that type of upbringing because I rebelled against that type of upbringing. Not that it wasn't there, but I didn't understand it. And by any means, were you going to tell me what to do? Because I was like a wild animal. I didn't understand that. My whole life I've had to do what I needed to do on my own. It wasn't about what you told me; it was what I did, and I felt like I had to suffer the consequences if things were bad or if things were good. I had to suffer the consequences. So why should I listen to you? That's what I felt at that time. Unfortunately, I changed as I got older, but you're talking about a kid that had no direction except for survival. And my instincts were to survive. I could probably stab or kill somebody and didn't think twice about it. You know what I mean? And when you
Right.
wake up every day and all you see is murder, kill, murder, kill, what is the mindset of a child supposed to be like?
Yeah, no, for sure. I didn't grow up in such like a violent environment like that. Mine was more like a stepfather type thing. But I, went to selling drugs and, like just trying to basically never be home and then I left at 16, I think. And so yeah, it's hard to drop that. As an adult, you kind of carry that baggage with you everywhere. But that's all in Nashville. And then how the hell do you get from Nashville all the way out to Long Beach, California? Like
Well,
it's a pretty big move.
well, there was several moves. We went from Nashville to uh, Alabama, from Alabama to Atlanta, from Atlanta back to Nashville, from Nashville to California. Well, in this process, my mother was in the entertainment world. She was a dancer, a singer, a pool shark, street hustler. She lived a fast life, making a
Yeah.
fast dollar. So wherever she went, I went, but I was more of a problem because I was rebelling, was always getting in trouble. I could getting kicked out of school. Medical insurance was a problem because I was always getting in trouble. Then they wanted to seek psychological help. Maybe there's something wrong with me mentally. So then I was checked into a mental facility for psychiatric evaluation. And at that point, they had diagnosed that I was really intelligent. I just didn't know how to use that intelligence. I was just acting out. And so I was
Right.
placed in a special program. And then they had determined that no, this kid needs to be with his mother because, I don't know if you know what's going without a mom or a dad, but you want that mom and dad, whether it was wrong or not. Um, Being in the house with my mother was extremely abusive, and watching her get abused and watching my sister father abuse me, like it was just, it was just crazy. And I just became extremely angry and violent. So I would induce bodily harm to anything that was around me that wasn't going the way I wanted to go. And you're not my friend. I'm going to try to hurt you really bad. And so it landed me in some very ugly places. So at that point, my mother couldn't take the responsibility for, raising me. So she came to California. And then they suggested, well, maybe if he goes and he stays with his mom, maybe that'll help him, through his issues because there's a lot of anger. Like I was extremely angry. You know, um, I think out of the guys that I was in this program, there's only two of us left alive. One is in and out of jail, and I was the one that was blessed and made it out of everybody. But they were sexually molesting the kids, raping the kids in there. I had already been molested as a child from 5 coming up. So imagine, the chaos and the mindset that I was having going through this, but not understanding or emotionally how to express myself. So I became extremely angry and extremely violent. And as I got older, I became more of a threat to society. I became more of a threat to people that were around me. And that landed me in California in another mental institution, which again, there was nothing wrong. Just kids got a lot of issues, carrying a lot of baggage. We call that PTSD today, Um, so let's look at PTSD and ADHD and the lifestyle. And so the post-traumatic stress and the upbringing created chaos in my mind that I'm constantly in survival mode. I'm always trying to look for the solution to the problem, but not look at there is no problem because my life was always nothing but a problem. So that's all I gravitated to was negativity. And so when I gravitated to that negativity, I did negative things to overwhelm the negativity and somehow would replay it in my mind as being, this is okay until one day the judge said, if this man comes back in our court and this type of thing happens again and he's around life in a mental institution fully medicated. And I don't know what happened after that day because something happened because I changed. I don't know if it was just by the grace of God or maybe something clicked. I don't remember changing like that, but there was definitely a change. And at that point, I was the type of kid that had to be restrained, like full restraints in a seclusion room. Most people know what a seclusion room is, fully rubbered out with cameras and a restraint bed with a muzzle. And I remember it being like 7, 8, 9 guards to hold me, and then they would give me that, call it butt juice. And they hit you in the butt with that juice, and you wake, bam, you're out. You wake up 2 or 3 days later. So I was fully prescribed medication as a child. I wouldn't take it. That's what they didn't know. They thought I was taking those pills. I remember taking them. I was giving them to the girl next to me, who was a druggie, who got off on the pills, and she would give me a Snickers. So Snickers has been around in my life a long time. But going through all of this stuff, man, you either break or you either become stronger. And
Yeah,
usually,
yeah,
if you make it, you become smarter because of the adjustments that you have to make in order to make it. And they would always say, two things are going to change. You're either going to change or you're going to end up dead. Those are your options. You don't have a
yeah.
middle, which is true. So I think about that now today when I'm in a situation. I said, two things are going to happen here. I'm either going to end up dead or in jail. What do I want to do? And that's why I'm able to take that second and make the right decision.
Yeah, I heard this saying. It was like a glass bottle. So a human is like a glass bottle. And if you break it, you can either look at it as it's shattered or you can look at it as a weapon and you can then turn around and use it. And that's definitely like the angle that you took. I feel like that's the angle I took. It's This whole show makes me a little bit softer just to try to make sure that I don't get yelled at on the internet. But it's definitely weaponized a lot of people that I've kind of come in contact with and some of my friends. Um, But let's kind of get back to the story of you're out in Long Beach. Is that where you went to high school? Is out in
So
Long Beach?
yeah, so at that point I came here, and then I was in a special school for talented kids, but I was the only black kid. I was around a lot of white kids and a lot of Jewish kids, and they would make fun of me, call me buckwheat. And this was when the Little Rascals was big. Everybody knew about the Little Rascals,
Oh
and I was
yeah,
always
yeah.
called buckwheat because I had this long hair, poofy afro, and I had those, beady eyes. So they would always call me buckwheat, and I would beat the shit out of them. Excuse my language. I beat the crap out of them.
Oh, you can
And
say shit. I prefer you to say shit,
okay,
unless you
and
got
then,
kids around and you can't. But yeah, no,
you know,
run it, man.
I'd get in trouble for that. But what no one saw is the environment that I was in wasn't conducive for me. I don't understand when I'm being called buckwheat, when I'm called nigger, when I'm called these things, because in the ghetto, that's not, you don't hear that. You only hear that when
Right.
you come outside. And so now I'm in this white community, Jewish community. I'm bused into this school for gifted kids because I was really smart with numbers, which later I'll played a role in life, helping me. But I was always treated different because I was the only black kid. They would make fun of me. I'd beat them up and I'd get kicked out. So, at that point now I'm bused to another school, which is an inner city, which is now more like the environment that I'm growing up with. But the difference was I wasn't like them. I wasn't gangbanging. I wasn't, ghetto. I was educated, but I wasn't educated to have the understanding in the white classroom, the Jewish classroom, but I was a nerd in the black classroom because I wasn't a gangbanger, I wasn't a thug. So I didn't fit in anyway. So now, I'm struggling in school. I'm in and out of trouble. I'm getting kicked out of school. It's becoming a problem that obviously I'm the problem, not the system, because at this point, the system doesn't take responsibility for the economic lifestyle that I was put in because of the things that happened during the slave trade. So I mean, I studied all this stuff, so I'm really educated on why my conditions were the way they were, not because my mother didn't work hard or she was young, but at that time they didn't facilitate programs for blacks to be economically balanced like whites were. So therefore, being my ancestors were slaves, didn't benefit from anything, was still slaves and niggas. So now that here I'm born, there was nothing left to me. There was no house. There was no 40 acres and a mule that was promised. There was nothing left for me but the tyranny and the mindset of struggle and what color I was. So immediately, um, I rebelled against the hood because, like, you guys don't know what's outside of this ghetto, is there's other things that are happening, and this isn't important. So now I'm a nerd, I'm a weirdo. So I kind of created my own lane and did my own thing and uh, started wrestling. Right when before I started wrestling, I was selling drugs at 12 years old. I worked for a very big drug dealer at the time. He's no longer alive, so I can, talk about it. He had me selling drugs when I was 12 years old. I was selling crack cocaine and weed. Um, and he became later on in life a very powerful drug dealer. And uh, he came to me one day and he said, "Hey," he says, "it's something about you. I don't want you to sell drugs. I want you to figure out what it is you want to do." He goes, "I've always been this weird kid, spiritually just different." And he says,
Yeah.
I want you to figure out what you want to do." And I said, "Well, I just want to go collect money for you because I love to fight. I was always fighting. Every day I'm fighting." Um, so that happened for maybe about 5 or 6 months, but I was beating people like really badly, like almost near death, people going in comas, like just tormenting them. I had an accomplice at that time, and he said, "I don't want you." A situation that happened, and guy almost died, and he said, "Look, you're real sloppy with what you're doing." I think at that time I was like maybe 13, 14. And he said, "I want you to figure out something else you want to do." I said, "I want to fight." So I think at 13 years old, he took me to a boxing gym. I started boxing, but it wasn't good enough. I want to fight. Like boxing, I was hitting the bag, jump roping, shadow boxing. No, I need to fight, fight. Like I want to fight.
Yeah.
Thank God that they didn't push me in that direction because I'd probably be retarded right now because I was the kind of kid that I got off on pain. I got off on inflicting it or having it inflicted, which got me off to give it back to you. So I wanted to fight. I wasn't getting fights. I'm hitting the bag for an hour. I'm jump roving. I need to fight. So I'm sitting at the bus stop one day, and a guy comes up to me and says, "You wrestle?" And I was like, "No," because I had boxing shoes on. He said, "Well, I wrestle." He said, "Those look like wrestling shoes." I said, "No, those are boxing shoes." He said, "Won't you come in and wrestle?" I said, I'll beat up whoever you got in there." Now at this time, I'm in, I think junior high.
Okay.
He invited me to come in Long Beach Poly High School. I went into Long Beach Poly High School. I mean, I'm beating up grown men. I weigh about a buck. I weigh about 96 pounds. And I go in there and this Filipino kid kick my ass. I'm like, I couldn't understand like what he was doing to me because on the streets I was good, but in here this
Right.
was something different. And so he beat me up really bad. And the guy go, "Oh man, you're tough. You did a pretty good job." They saw the heart because the skill he wrecked shot with me. So I told him, "I'm gonna come back again. This ain't over. I'm coming back tomorrow." And before you know it, man, I was training every day, and all my goal was to kick his ass. A year later, I kicked his ass, but by that time, I was one of the best wrestlers in the state. And from that point on, state championship after state championship after state championship, college 2 time, high school first time champion out of Long Beach Poly, first state championship that they've ever had. Left college, left high school, went to college, won 2 state championship titles there undefeated. And yes, the rumor's true. I did beat John Smith, who's a 2 time gold medalist, 3 time world champ. I beat him.
Yeah.
Um, but you're talking about a kid that was should not be here. That's why it's so important, and I'm thankful to be able to come on your show and be able to tell the story because it's such an inspiration for other people who thought their life was so bad when they had a good mom or they had a dad. You know what I mean? I had
Yeah.
nothing at the time. And I created most of that because I was so bad. But I didn't have the consistency, stable home life. But is it worse to have parents or to not have parents at all? Is it worse to have bad parents or is it worse to not have any parents? Like, who knows what the answer to that is?
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody really knows the answer to it. And you said something earlier that kind of struck me about within the black culture that there's like not as many resources for education and like it was back then. I think that's still true. Like I'm obviously not black, but I have a couple buddies and like during COVID, it was like it really kind of came out, about the culture and everything that I was very unaware of. And so I'm actually doing an episode with one of them, and we're gonna have a conversation about like the cultural divides and like because there's just so much shit that like even though I grew up in poverty and trailers and like
Right.
horrible environment, I still had no worry about getting pulled over. Getting pulled over to me was just like an annoyance, shit like that. And then like, I could talk shit back to a cop and like, yeah, I've gotten roughed up a couple times, like getting pulled over for DUIs and trying to fight back or whatever. But like,
Right.
it's nothing compared to what you would have gone through, and then especially in the financial world, I feel like the black culture is kind of left behind and you're not really given as much. And so that was one thing that like really drew me to you is you're not just a fighter, you're not just the Bellator champ, you're not just from the UFC, you're not just from or one of the greatest coaches along with like this huge wrestling champion. You're so much more than that. And I was hoping to, just kind of try to pull some of that out of you, and use that for inspiration because while I'm still on my journey and so are you, you can kind of look back and you've always been one that's been able to look back and reach a hand out and try to bring somebody along with you and bring them up, especially now that you're coaching and everything. So can you talk about a little bit about how you got into the actual sport of MMA? Because it seems like some wrestlers that's now what people are doing, is they're wrestling to MMA, but you came
Right.
around right around Mark Coleman times or
Mark Coleman,
yeah.
Mark the Hammer, Hoist
Yep.
Grayson.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I've
Kevin
been like
Jackson.
hitting that dude up on Instagram trying to go down to Columbus and shoot one of these with Mark because God, that dude's a legend. So you didn't come around when it was like, this very technical, like softer version. You came when it was just all heart and grit
It
and
didn't
like you
matter
could wear
which way.
wrestling shoes. You could wear wrestling shoes in the ring. Mark Coleman was a champ, like I don't remember the first one, but yeah, he was wearing wrestling shoes the whole time, just picking people up, dropping them, and just laying the hammer down. So kind of what's that transition look like coming
So
from the pedigree that you came from?
let me answer. Okay, I'm gonna answer that question, but let me answer the first question. First
Yeah.
question was we're talking about race and culture.
Yeah.
Black people have a different culture by
Yes.
far. I don't
100%.
think I don't think Black lives should matter. I don't think it should be about black or white. If you take black out of it, all lives matter, right? Okay. Now, Black Lives Matter, as we know, was a big ass scam. They didn't do shit for low income neighborhoods. They didn't come to the hood. They
Yeah.
didn't come to the community. They didn't go into Chi Town up in Chicago. They didn't go to Detroit. They didn't go to St. Louis. They didn't come to Long Beach. They went to Huntington Beach. So let's be realistic here. Black Lives Matter was a movement for people to make millions of dollars. It's now been
Oh yeah.
exposed. So now that it's been exposed, let's look at the real problem here. The real problem here is fear. It's not about color, it's fear. Listen, if I am a black man working in Simi Valley, all KKK, and I'm a black cop, now you got to put black cop there because there's things that you have to follow through criteria. So there is no racial stuff being motivated or talked about. So I pull a
Right.
car with four white guys, because I work in the inner part of the city of Simi Valley. Pull a car with four white guys, bald heads, skinheads. I noticed one has a swastika tattoo. I noticed one looks kind of nervous. I noticed one's on
Well, you
drugs.
put yourself in weird positions for a black dude, I gotta say.
Because I'm gonna flip the same situation with you as a white man in
Okay.
Compton, in the hood. You pull a car over with two black dudes getting out. So the reason why I'm good at doing this is because I want you to see it's really not about color. It's about fear. They want to perpetuate it's about color, but it's really fear. Now, me as a black officer in Simi Valley, I'm not a racist, or I wouldn't have the damn job working in Simi Valley, first of all. So I pull the car over. One of those guys that look like they're sedated. I said, hey, don't move. I pull my gun. That guy reaches down for something, and I pop him. And they say, oh, black cop kills white skinhead. See, that's the media. Let's talk about the narrative and who controls the media. These are certain Jews that have the type of control that they have. So they're going to perpetuate this racial stuff. And of all people to perpetuate racism and hatred, you would think that the Jews would have more of an influence on peace and love based on what Hitler did to them in
Yeah.
such a short period of time. So now, by the way, you're talking to somebody that's educated on world history. So now you take a white cop that lives in Beverly Hills. He's working down in Compton. He pulls over a car with three gang members in it, and he tells them don't move. He draws his gun, and one of those dudes moves the wrong way, and he gets shot. Now it becomes white cop kills innocent black man that did not have a gun. So see, what's the narrative here? Is they're perpetuating and preaching this hatred and this separatism. It's really not about that. And you need more people like me to get on the stand that's educated about what's happening in this world to black people, what's happening in this world to Jewish people, what's happened to people in this world that economically don't have money. So
So
now it's
how
not,
do you yeah,
huh?
how do you do that? Because there's something that a lot of white people don't understand is like, you say the word the culture or that phrase, and most white people don't even know what that means. So there's clearly that divide, but how can you even start to combine that, to educate the the white people
Oh,
on black
remember,
culture?
I was married to a white woman. I had nothing but white friends. I was a wrestler, but I was always the oddball. So I was trying to
Mhm.
understand, why do I feel the way I feel? Why do I hate this? And why do I dislike that? Why do I notice this racial tension? Why?
Yeah.
And then when I look back at the way I act versus the way their kids acted, I was brought up hardcore, man. So now we're talking about environmental situations where the environment, if you grew up where I grew up, you would be a different type of a guy. Why? Because of the environment. So imagine being passed down economically, wealth. You're going to be a certain way versus me being passed down no money, poverty, no money, poverty, no money, poverty. So the strong will prey on the weak in the low income areas. It don't matter what color you are. An area that's all white and they're poor, the strong white men are going to supersede over the weak ones. And so they'll become the leaders. And they're different because they were able to come out of being poor to being powerful and running stuff. And now they got money. See, that's a problem right there. That's a serious problem because they're different from the way you are with your money. See, you inherited it. They had to hustle it. You don't want to be in the same room with this guy. His mindset is totally different. He said, well, I can't get it. Let's go take it. You're more like, let's make a business deal. Okay, well, no business deal. No, he doesn't think like that. He thinks, no business deal, kill him. What? Because his
Yeah.
value of life is different than the value of yours.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. I completely understand.
They could put
I
me
don't,
on a
it's obviously
panel.
not something, it's obviously not something we're gonna like be able to fix or whatever. It's just, I know it seems like for my audience, it's mainly like, males, 18 to 42, somewhere in there, something like that. And so I just always want to try to bring something more than just talking about fighting and kind of, have more culture, I guess. I don't
Look,
know if culture is, but yeah.
let's understand something. If you were black and I was white, but stay white, but I want you to change your skin color, how would it feel everywhere you go? You're worried. And let me tell you why. As a black man, when I'm in a certain neighborhood that's black, I worry that they think I'm a gangster and I'm over here trying to gangbang. I go to a white community, I worry about them calling the police because I'm white. I mean, I'm black in a white community. If I'm in a Mexican neighborhood, I'm worried about getting shot or ran up on because I'm black in a Mexican neighborhood. If I'm in an Asian neighborhood, I'm worried about the police again. Why? Because I'm black in an Asian neighborhood. There is no place for me. Where? Where can I go where I can say I'm comfortable? In my own
Basically
neighborhood, I, I'm worried about them killing me because I've rose above the financial issues that they have. I've rose above that, and now they want to come take it from me. So I find it safer to live in a white community than I do my own. How, how am I supposed to teach my kids when they
Yeah.
say, well, Daddy, why did you move? Because I was afraid that I would either kill somebody or get killed. Where do we draw the
Yeah.
line? I'm
Yeah. I guess I
teaching
never thought
people,
of it like that.
I'm teaching people to be afraid.
Yeah.
Be afraid. Why?
Yeah.
Because I pack.
Yeah, I never thought of it from like, be like my personality and everything. The only thing that changes is the pigment of my skin. I guess I've never put it into that context. And
You would
I
end
that
up
would
dead.
suck. Like I'm 20 minutes from Detroit, like so, and I live in Ann Arbor. It's one of the whitest, softest cities in the fucking world.
Right.
And so yeah, I no, that would suck. I'm just gonna be like
You
completely
know what
dead
would
on.
happen? You would probably either end up dead or end up jail for killing somebody, or
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm going to jail for sure.
think that you got to survive. It's not about your color now; it's about surviving. So you're gonna
Yeah.
do what you got to do. And 9 times out of 10, you're gonna carry a gun because you're different and you want to survive. So you're gonna pack a piece. That's only smart. Has nothing to do with being tough. Now the
Yeah.
wrong guy runs up on you, or 2 or 3 guys run, you pop one, you're going to jail. That happens
How
every
the
day.
fuck how do you go from like this violence and like you somehow made it through high school without wrestling? Most likely you probably would have been fucked. And so you make it through high school and you're like, you have this insane life. Like there's stories about you hanging out with like the whole Long Beach crew that's now like, Snoop and Dre and everything like that. And you become this a legend. Your name's not going anywhere. Your son is becoming a legend, right now.
Look at what he's going through.
How what
Let's be real here. Let's look at what he's going through. My son is
Okay.
probably one of the most decorated fighters in the world. What do you hear about it? Why? You hear about Sean O'Malley. Why? You
Yeah.
hear about all these others, but why not him? Because
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm asking questions like, why is it that we have to struggle for every nickel and dime? I'm not going to play the race card because if I play the race card, I can mess his career up. But I'm asking questions why. He's one of the most flashiest fighters with damn near a 70-80% finish ratio. He's fought from the time he's in Bellator. He's 19-0. That little loss they gave him, he didn't lose that fight. He won the fight. And everybody that saw it
Yeah.
said, we don't understand what just happened. That we saw clearly we're Pitbull fans, but Pitbull didn't win that fight.
No,
Pitbull knows he
no.
didn't win the fight. When you look at damage, so you ask yourself, what is this really about? Is
So
it
let me.
ratings?
Yeah, no, actually, you don't have a good history with Dana White. Do you feel like your past is kind of like coming back to affect your son now?
No, I think my past is actually what's helping him push forward because he's learned to
Okay.
channel that anger, that frustration, the way I was treated, the way I was done. He's channeling that, and when he goes in that cage, you'll never see my son quit because he uses that as motivation. Put some respect on our name. Don't wait
Oh
till my
yeah.
dad's dead. Look, I've coached the best fighters in the world from A to Z. Even Hollywood Dan Henderson, when he first got on the scene of fighting in Japan, he trained with me. Dan Henderson, Randy Couture, Rampant. It doesn't matter. Go down the line. I've trained with them. Why? Why do they come train with Antonio Mckee? Why have they wasted the time to come in my gym? Why have they hired me? Because I'm really good at what I do. It's just no one wants to accept that on regular media, social media, because guess what? I have a freedom of speech and I may say something that offends them. I don't have a problem with the UFC. I love the UFC, probably one of the best organizations to fight in. I have a problem with you know who. Why? Because of the things that he does, the things that he says. Listen, you're an icon of the sport. You should lead us the right way. Don't say things and disregard people's feelings because you got all the money. I would treat you no different than the way I treat Dana White. I
Yeah.
respect you. But if you cross that line with me, then you're going to get the same treatment they get in the hood because that's what I know how to do. I know how to deal with my situations a certain type of way. If you call me out of my name and you call me up to bat, I'm coming to bat. Don't get mad when I hit you with it. You called me for this purpose, but I would never disrespect you. I would never call you out of your name. I would never talk about your wife, your kids. I would never talk about you as an individual. And if I did that, then I would expect what you got to give me. I got to immediately say, I apologize. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way. I got to take responsibility for what I do. Just because I'm Antonio doesn't mean that I can do that. Just because you got all this money don't mean that you can do that.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah, I
lot
know.
of other people. There's a lot of other people that will tell you horror stories about that guy, but they won't say it because they're employed by it. See, I chose to say, I don't care about the money because I made it this far without kissing ass to the slave master. So what the worst could be is that I got to work harder. And that's what motivates me to be better at what I do because I know that I don't have the same back burner to fall on.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to be
And
a
it
straight shooter.
Yeah, and it really sucks that MMA is a sport. I mean, I feel like in the next 5 to 10 years, there's going to be a very large change. I don't know what that change is going to be, but I do feel like the sport is slowly moving towards more something like the NFL or, it's going in that area because right now it's essentially the WWE, but like you're actually fucking this dude up. There's no like no script, there's no nothing. And the ranking system is completely fucked. And like you were talking about Sean O'Malley, like he he's slowly working his way up there, but now he's got Peter Yan, in 2 days. That's not an easy day out. But he got there mainly because of his hair and because of what he's doing and all these extra things. So hopefully we can get to a point to where it's
What
down
happens
to
though?
skill.
What happens when a black man acts like that? What happens if a black man throws a chair through a window and cut everybody open, calls people out of their race in another country? What happens if we act and do what Sean O'Malley does? You know what happens. We get blackballed. We get ridiculed. We
Yeah.
get kicked
I'm
out the
trying to
league.
think of somebody too. I can't. Yeah, I can't think of.
You know why? Because we've been programmed to
Yeah.
not act like that. And if you do, the consequences is we usually end up dead.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to think of something like somebody who's
Kanye
done like a
West.
ton in their life.
Kanye West is walking on thin ice right now.
He
I wouldn't
wore
be
a White
surprised.
Lives Matter shirt, bro. Who does that shit? Like,
Attention. I think he's mentally, look, people always said to me, like, Antonio, what do you think? What do you think? I used to say, well, we need reparations. I'm going to tell you something. We are slowly slipping into a mental crisis and we're shutting down. Over 437 years of being treated like shit in America and being bamboozled and wampled and stompled over, but yet being the number one in sports, number one entertainment, but we control no resources. And when you don't control resources, guess what? You have no power. So what's starting to happen is a lot of these black people are starting to have money now. They're starting to have money and live that life, but they're mentally PTSD from post-traumatic syndrome, from slave mindset mentality. So now what's starting to happen is they're all starting to smoke so much weed and they're staying so high, not dealing with the reality. So now psychosis, schizophrenia, paranoia, they're starting to lose it. You're starting to see it happen more and more. Now, people say you can't blame that on the weed. I'm not blaming it on the weed. I'm blaming it on the trauma for 437 years of the way we've been treated in America. We are starting to collapse mentally, emotionally. We're starting to break down. And there is nobody that will understand it except someone like me trying to express to the world, look, there's an epidemic coming and it's a black mental issue. Look at the girl Simone in the Olympics. What happened to her? They had to withdraw. What happened? She mentally lost it. She started losing it. The track star, what happened? Mentally lost it, starting to lose it. You're going to start seeing this happen more and more and more and more and more with minorities because there is no outlet for us. There's no platform for us to say, this is what's wrong with me. Half of them don't even know what's wrong with them. You know why? Because they're high or they're drunk. They're drinking their problems away. They're not
How do
seeking
you
help.
feel about how do you feel about I mean, let's just keep it going with Sean O'Malley. You know, I mean, you look at his Instagram and he's blowing trees down like every video, you know, coming out of his like Skittles Lamborghini with a joint, and then you got Nate Diaz coming on stage, and you know, I mean, it seems to be like culturally people are starting to go more towards weed for like pain management or whatever it is, but it's mainly to like kind of look cool. Like I smoke myself, but I also have to go through chemo. And so I do that. But yeah.
Who's pushing the marijuana agenda? Who's pushing it? Medicinal use is different than just blowing. I've noticed that anybody in the music industry, anybody in the rap industry, anybody in the industry, period, that's pushing weed, they're blowing up.
Yeah.
They're blowing up. You don't see anybody talking bad about it. Do you see people talking bad about it? Now, who controls the platforms that they're on?
White people. Yeah, white people. So, I mean, you were talking. Yeah, I'm not gonna deny that shit, bro.
Does it not make sense that maybe this is the direction we want to go? Because crack didn't do it. It damaged the community and it damaged the generation, but it didn't get the problem done. It didn't fix the problem. We is going to fix the problem because it is a mental issue that they're going to suffer from. No one's talking about it. That's why they have these houses where you can go live and they'll pay you to smoke. They want to see what different strands do. You can go in and pick the type of high you want. How is this medicinal use?
Yeah, I don't like the medicinal use thing. I think it masks it. Like for me, it does help. I use it for nausea. Um, I'm tired of fucking medications. I'm tired of taking pills, but I also use that as an excuse to say that or to smoke weed. You know, like I probably shouldn't do it as often, but I don't know. It's just a completely fucked up subject that it's kind of weird to even talk about because I don't know. Like there's just so much that I don't know about. You know what I'm saying? Um, yeah, I don't know. So how about since my brain is fucked right now, not from smoking weed, but just the fact that you're on this show is amazing to me. But I want to pivot, if you don't mind, because I feel like we could talk about like the black culture thing and like weed and everything for so long. But I want to go back to your fighting career and kind of like get back onto that a little bit, if you don't mind, because you were always very vocal about all of this in your career. Some may say that that's why you weren't able to continue through the UFC. You had one fight in the UFC, And it might have been because of your viewpoints on things. How do you
But
feel like that affected you?
what do you think it was my viewpoints, or do you think it was the fact that I stood up for something? See,
Oh, it's 100% because you said some shit. Yeah, like, yeah, you're
like,
supposed to keep your mouth closed. That's just how it works. You know, you're not supposed to say the shit you want to say, and when you do say it, everybody around you will say, "Thank God somebody fucking said it," except for the person that doesn't want to hear it. They'll even think it's true. They'll know it's true, but you disrespected them, and they got the power, so they get to do what they want to do with it. That's just how it is.
well, back in the day, I asked the question. They said, everybody thinks I have the problem with Dana White. I personally don't have a problem with that man. What I have a problem with is the way he conducts business. Business and being a regular person, I think he's a great guy as far as a family man. Uh, I mean, I don't want to mess up anything, so let me just leave that
Yeah,
alone. Let me focus on this. Look, I was self-trained in a garage. I lost my sixth fight, I think it was. I got knocked out by Chris Brennan. I got kicked in the chin. That was the best thing he ever did in his whole life, right?
yeah,
I became extremely obsessed because I'd never been knocked out in life. This man I was going to go kill because he beat me. And every day I would lay in the bed and tell myself, judge a man how he comes back from defeat, not how he won, not how he wins, not how many times he won. Because my whole life I had won, 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 won. And this particular fight I lost, and he would never rematch me. He knew he wasn't as good as me. He got caught because I got tired because I was doing something inappropriate before the fight. I shouldn't have been doing what I was doing, and I was tired. So long story short, I was 7-6-1 at that point. Go look at how many fights he had. 20 fights. I came in, and from that point on, I maybe lost one more time, and I went undefeated for 7 or 8 years in three different weight classes. Remember, I was 145 pounder to 155. They said, "Oh, there's no division there. You need to go up to 170." So I fought at 170 when I weighed 162. I beat Delson Eleno. I beat Ronald Machine Gun. I mean, I beat. Look,
yeah,
it's a long, hard ass road, but I never once worried because I didn't need the money. I didn't fight for money. I already had money. You know what I mean? I fought because I like fighting. And in this, I was also seeing the way fighters were treated. I couldn't believe it. Remember, I've been in Rampage's career since he was in Japan. I saw what they were doing to him in Japan that
yeah,
later on led to America. And I said, hold on, is this just a black thing? Then I saw Rashad going through it. Then I said, wait a minute, I'm a black fighter. So I started speaking about the politics in the fight game. Oh, Mckee, you're a boring fighter. Why? Because I fought like Matt Hughes? Because I fought like Sean Sherp? Because I fought like all the other great wrestlers? So I'm boring, but I'm unbeaten? No, it's because I'm not allowing you guys to dictate the algorithm of me. I'm
yeah,
free. I'm free of this. And because I wasn't on the pay, I did what I wanted to do, but I've always been a man of integrity. Is anybody paying attention to my interviews? I'm not smacking it like that. I'm actually talking facts. Look them up.
right.
And it scares the superiors that if you don't get a lid on this guy, how many others are going to come through that experience what he experienced and be the same way? You
Yeah,
got to stop this somewhere. You got to shut this train down. So you know how you shut me down? My son decides to fight. So I'm quiet now. And I tell him, son, do your talking with these. He's had one coach, dad, from the child all the way up. How many guys have raised the champ from the ground up? He's not all over the place now.
yeah,
And he's got
yeah.
a very well-rounded game.
Oh yeah, no, he's the real deal for sure. Yeah, and it's crazy that he was trained by you because for me, and this is just me, your style was more like a wrestler street fighter, essentially. You know, that's kind of what I saw it as, and that's why I like watching your fights because that's kind of more what I like to do in sparring. He's more technical, so it's almost like you were raised as like a Mike Tyson, like you're the Mike Tyson of MMA, and then everything, the technical aspects of it, and then you kind of turned that around. Instead of using it for your own, you gave it to your son. So now
Right.
your son is coming up, and he's not coming up, he's at the top. Um, and he's got that street brawler with the grinding mentality, and he's got the technical aspect of it. So he's going to get his belt back, that's for sure. um but what do you, because you were a belt holder as well, how are
Brief.
you kind of, yeah, how are you passing down the things that you learned after you got the belt? Because like life does change a little bit once you get a belt and you have more of a voice, and that's not something that a lot of people are brought up to know how to deal with, as like, and that's not even like for color, for anything like that. Nobody knows how to deal with that shit. How do you, as a street guy, like legit ass street dude, you can Google, you can, all your stories online are all, fact checked. How do you kind of soften everything to like pass down, to make sure that he doesn't have to go through the same shit that you went through?
I look at things like this. You have a cat and you have a dog. A cat is real simple. You open the canned food, put it there, cat eats, goes, potties, does everything like a cat.
Right.
You have a dog, you got to crack that dog up a little bit. You got to be more forceful to that
Yeah.
dog, right? The thing is, you can't raise a cat to be a dog, but you can raise a dog to be a cat because the dog makes adjustments. A cat
Oh
can't,
shit.
because that's not its nature.
Yeah.
But a dog is a dog. You can't raise it to actually be a cat, but you can change the nature to a certain extent to where it understands the cat. So what I did is I looked at my life and I said, I'm a fucking dog. I'm a savage ass dog. When you put me in that dark room and you say,
Oh, yeah.
there's a knife in here, lights are gonna go out, and one of you guys are gonna come out alive. Bet on me, I'm coming out. Because it's what I've been through, right? Put a guy that's been raised like a cat in that room. He's gonna go in the corner and he's gonna be afraid, right? So what I did is I said, you know what? I want to show my son the cat, but I want to also teach him about being a dog. And so he's able to be transferable in these emotions. When it's time to be a dog, be a savage one. But when it's time to be a cat, and be a good one. Pick and choose the one you want, right? Life, you have to have both. This is why
Yeah.
cats are the way they are. But everybody loves the dog. Everybody
Oh
loves the
yeah.
dog.
Yeah, my buddy Josh, he just had his we're hoping he gets into Bellator after this fight. He had just had a pretty convincing main event win through a WXC, and he destroyed this guy. But I'm trying to shoot some like behind the scenes stuff with him, and I spend a lot of time with this dude, and he's very gentle, soft, loves to laugh, and then start to tape his hands up, and he starts to slowly, change. um by the time the gloves are on and he's hitting pads and they call his name, that's not my friend anymore.
Right. You can
Like
see it in
that
his
is no
eyes, right?
longer. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, and I like, it's probably one of the cooler things that I've done. I've actually got the camera on him as he changes. It's just like it's like, all right, now I can't talk to him anymore. What are you doing to, that's in you. That shit's never going away. That's in you. That's a part of who the fuck you are. How do you tame that, and when do you let that out now? And how do you teach AJ to harness that? Because he's got that shit too. I mean, like, he's joyous and playful until that cage door shuts,
Look
and
at his
then it,
eyes. You
yeah,
see his
yeah,
eyes,
oh yeah, he's one
they
of
shift,
the
right?
yeah,
Remember what I
it's
told
laser.
you we've been through? Remember what I've been through? Remember the way they treated me? Remember the way they treat him? That's what you see. The change becomes, it's now personal. It's business. I'm the mercenary. I'm coming now. You're going to get the unchained me. And that's why
Yeah,
it's so dangerous when guys like him become champs, because now they've reached that pinnacle. The fight has been fought. and the victory has been won. Now what happens? You slowly see them spiral down the rabbit hole. Well, that's where you have to also put spirituality in there. You have to be spiritual about whatever it is that you do. And spiritual means you're going to come off the flesh. You're going to come out of what you can physically do with your hands and your feet. And you're going to move now mentally and spiritually where you come from the heart. And so I've always conditioned his heart to be good. That's where the cat comes back. Bring the cat back, son. And you know what?
I like that.
We have a saying when he's fighting, we have a line of communication. No one would understand it if I go roof, roof, if I go meow, meow. That means something. He knows what that means. If I got to bring them dogs out, that means it's time to let it all go right here. And usually the fight's over within 30 seconds to a minute. No last after that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know we've been talking for about an hour now, so I gotta wrap this up here in a little bit, but I want to make just one more subject and then I can get you out of here. I want to focus in on your coaching career because like we were gonna do it last week and then you ended up in London, so you are one of the higher, you know, ranked coaches, not ranked, but like you're higher sought out, I guess.
Yeah.
What do you have coming up? And like who are you working with right now and kind of what's next for you in your fight career and then also coaching career?
You know what? I would love to fight again. I'm in great shape. I train every day with some of the best fighters in the world. It's sad that I have to sell me. No one's going to talk about me. So I
You and
have,
AJ get on the same card?
huh?
Do you think you and AJ will be able to get on the same card? Because Frank Mir's trying to do that
We
with
did that
his
already.
daughter.
We did. We fought in
Oh,
Bellator.
you did. That's right. Yeah. I forgot about
Yeah.
that. Fuck. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
no, that wasn't.
It,
Yep.
it's his time now. I don't want to take anything from my son. And I think a lot of parents try to live through their kids. I'm not trying to live through my kids, man. I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy to be coaching. I just wish more people would get behind me because what I'm pushing is a fighter story. I'm pushing a fighter story with the truth. No lies, no manipulation. This is the truth of what we go through, not only as Black fighters, but as fighters in general. It just happens to be I'm Black, and there's a different set of rules for me than there is for everybody else. People don't
Yeah.
like it when I say that stuff, but it's because they don't know any better. Why is it that everybody in the UFC that's of color is always crying about money? They're always complaining. They're always like who's making real money and who's not making real money.
I mean,
And then the
Usman's not
guys,
bitching.
who, who,
Usman and
uh,
Kamaru?
he is.
Yeah.
He's just not. It's not public.
Oh, yeah.
Desanyo's
Yeah, he got a lot.
is making good money. Who do you think makes more money, Desanyo or Usman?
I would say Usman. No?
I'll just say this on the records. Uh, Desanyo is one of the highest paid fighters. Okay, we're talking
Really?
heavyweight division. We're talking heavyweight division now.
Yeah.
The champ, fighting for 500,000.
Damn.
I mean, 145 pounder. I think what he made his last fight 4-2. He made no money.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's an issue. I'm saying there's a lack of education on my people's behalf. Managers are making money off of who they know, not what they know. Real managers, real attorneys don't want to touch MMA because they're looking at these contracts going, oh my God, this is crazy. You guys are signing stuff like that. And so they don't want to get involved.
Yeah,
So
bro,
there are
I'm
people
trying.
who are called capitalists that come in and say, this is easy money. Let's do it. Load us up with all these fighters. There's
Yeah.
very few management companies out there that are actually doing anything for the fighters.
Yeah,
Besides making phone
I'm
calls,
actually studying. I'm actually studying for the LSAT right now, so I can get into law school. And all like fighting's all I've known, you know, just like you. It's just if something has to happen, I have no problem turning that switch. But there is no representation of fighters. And unfortunately, most fighters come from a impoverished community, from a violent background, and they'll just say yes to a paycheck. You know, they don't really value their time, you know, as much as the general population does. And so what you're doing is amazing, just trying to bring that to the light, you know, because I do think the more that people like you come out and talk about it, and the more people like your son continue to win and bring more, you know, just facts instead of like this social narrative, and you actually bring facts to everything. I think it's going to bring more legitimacy to the sport. It's going to bring a lot more money to the sport, and hopefully, kind of turn it into more of a league than like a prom or something. I don't even really know what to like compare it to, but it's like, you know, who's the prettiest and who says the most, that's the person that's going to get paid the most, no matter if you win or lose. So yeah, I guess let's just kind of wrap on that, and let everybody know what you're doing next and where we can find you at.
And I'm like, I'm not into all the social media and the hype of people following me and the likes and the not likes. It's everything's Antonio Mckee. I'm not hiding from anything. Instagram, Antonio Mckee. Facebook, Antonio Mckee. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm just straight. I just want to help. I hope, man, you have no idea the number of fighters that I help that call me. Some need money, some can't pay rent. I'm really for the fighters, for the people, even if you're not a fighter. I just want to help people be better. That's what makes me feel good about what I've been through. If I wasn't
mm,
helping people through these tough times and situations that they go through, I don't feel like I'm doing my job because I feel like that's what I'm here for. I believe I've been granted life to help those who didn't have to go through what I went through and to pay respect to those who went through what I went through and didn't make it. I made
yeah,
it. So I just want to be a blessing for everybody. And I want to, again, man, thank you for bringing me on a fighter story. I'm just, you don't understand. I'm so humble. And I do this a lot. And I'm just so humbled each time because I know every time I do a show, there's somebody that's going to listen and that they're going to follow it. And they're going to say, you know what? I needed to hear that. So I want to close out your show. I just want to continue to pray that you are successful in what you're doing, one, and that you grow to be stronger and better than what you are, and that when things get tough for all of us, and this is the world needs more of this. Let's pray for love and happiness. And I wish nothing but love and the best for your uh, fight story. And I wish nothing but the best for you. And I'm going to pray to a higher up. I don't want to get in religion because religion is a bunch of bull crap,
yeah,
but it's more
yeah,
of the relationship that you establish with a higher being than self. That to me is the God that you should be serving. And that's
sure.
a good person. You could serve the higher demonic side, evil, but I'm going to pray that you
Yeah,
manifest the good and that higher self, the God that's in you. So, man, thank you again. All due respect, I'm grateful, and I wish nothing but the best for you. And I'll pray for you as soon as this show is done and we hang up. I will immediately pray for you and your success in your show and all the listeners that are listening. I pray that they get something out of this because all I want to do
yeah,
is give love.
yeah. And I'll close it out with this, that I feel like I stumbled a little bit because it is kind of a celebrity shock, you know, to actually have this conversation with you, because I have looked up to what you do, what you stand for, and how you are vocal. That's something that I've always valued and respected in somebody. And the fact that you're humble in all of this has been amazing, and it's kind of, you're showing me exactly how to do this. So, and I also want people to know that I'm not some special dude that has like some connections to be able to get fighters on. I hit you up on Instagram or Facebook or something, and you responded, you know, and so I just want to thank you for that, for being who you are, for being down to earth, for being very humble, not letting the celebrity status kind of jade you and everything, and for passing on your information. So thank you for that. And
Gotta bring my son on here too, man. Get him on here. Set up a time where you get him on here.
yeah, that'd be dope, man. That'd be awesome. I'd love to
Kimbo
get him on here.
Slice,
Hopefully I don't fuck it up as much as I did this one.
Kimbo Slice, Joey Davis, Chris Cyborg. I mean, I'm training everybody. I mean, if that'll help you to tell their story, help somebody else, like all my resources that you have access to, because again, my job is to help people.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, bro. And I'm definitely gonna be hitting you up in the future, even just to check in, see how you're doing. But
All right.
all right, so we'll go ahead and end with that, folks. It's been amazing. Antonio, thank you for coming
Thanks.
on, genuinely from me, not from the show, from me. Thank you for coming on. And everybody else, have a good day.
News, peace.